Got it. Let's see. How's that? Does it echo? Still echoing. Let's try this. Stop echoing. Got it. How's that? I'll play this in. Still echoing. I'm the master of echo. Yes. Let's see if this gets rid of it. How's that? Stop echoing. Here. Okay, now that's working. Okay, now it's better. Okay. Okay. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the echo to stop. Well, it's stopped, but I'm listening to the delayed streaming, and it's now it's settled down, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow. No, not better. Hmm. Hmm. I can there we go. How's that? Hmm? Hello. Okay. How come? Hmm. It's delayed on my computer. The streaming. Oh. But it's interesting. It's interesting. Let's see. So, what if I press this? Unmute. Echo land, right? How's that? Let's see how it sounds. Let's see. Wow, not bad. Hmm. Oh, what if I turn off the microphone? Here. Let's see, how's that? How's that? How's that? I'm streaming on my laptop. Oh, interesting. Oh, oh, it's a computer. So it's delayed. Hmm. Hmm. Let's see. There it is. All right. So, 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 oh, yeah, well, mm, hello, hello, ah, hello, 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 oh, hmm, hey, hey, listen. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's time again. Uh, I got I got a book here. I'd like to read. The Third Eye by T. Lobsang Rampa. T. Lobsang Rampa. T is Tuesday. So let's see. Let me show you a map of Plaza. Let's see. Let's see. Hmm, Map of Plaza. Maybe 1950s. Hmm, and it was probably sketched from memory. Sketch map of Plaza. Maybe if I could put it like this. Is it coming out right? Oh, my YouTube videos. Oh, I have to hit the play button, maybe? Hmm. Move it forward. Hmm. Maybe. Hmm. What can I do? Sign in. I'm gonna sign in with a phone, another phone. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Let's see. Shit. Shit. Okay. Alright. Subtitles. Let me see something. Okay. Let's click para hacer la config. Sí. Oh, subtitles. How do you get subtitles? Oh, that turns it on. Let's click para hacer la config. Maybe. Oh, subtitles English. So, am I generating subtitles? Oh, let's see. I'm trying to. We could take a picture of Lhasa. Let's see. I'm gonna use lens. Where's lens? Here it is. is that noise? What's that? Uh-oh. Oh, wow. That's pretty good. Oh no, echoey. And I get this off. What if I turn this off? Okay. That's pretty good. Oh no. That's that. Sketch. Please don't sketch. Third eye. Hmm? There. Um, I'm hearing two versions. You can hear the delayed version. It's delayed by like start. Hello. Like a second delay. Better? No. Wow. Last set. Wow. There's about a 10-second delay or more. I don't know. From what's happening now to what's happening on the YouTube live stream. Oh, I'd like to share the map of last, if I may, if I can. If I can share. Oh, somebody is knocking at the door. Ah, let's see if I can do. Somebody knocked under the door. Lucia. How are you? Hmm. See if I can share. How do I share? This? How am I? Can you hear me? Let's see, how do I share? So, share. Share photo. Share photo. And screenshots. Here.
Hello.
Hello. I hear you. I'm showing a map of class Tibet. Let's see. I can draw. Turkey. Draw on it. Yeah. Chat. Whiteboard. Maybe this only all participants. No,
What are you talking today? What is the subject?
that's, that's this book. Look, grab it. This book is called The Third Eye. No, up here.
Which book?
Oh, I'm sharing. There. Look, there. Oh no, it's backwards. Look at that. Fix that. Oh, no. Oh, I have to go in here. Oh, back. Let's see. Let's see. How do I fix that?
I can see the book title. Have you turned your camera or turn the book?
Ground and effect. Maybe it's here. None. Oh, here it is. Hmm. Here we go. Now here it is. I got how many cameras? One, two, three. Oh, and this the third eye. The third eye.
The third eye. Okay, let me
And
see again.
third eye.
Can you put it again on the camera? I cannot see it.
Which one? Which one am I talking? Oh, here it is. How
Yeah.
about that?
Voice, Lobsang, Rampa. Okay, now I got it. Okay, thank you.
Hmm. You see it?
All right, thank you.
Ah, then the chapter one. Chapter one. Oi, oi, 4 years old and can't stay on a horse? You'll never make a man. What will your noble father say? With this, old Sue gave the pony and luckless rider a hearty thwack across the hindquarters and spat in the dust. It's delayed. The golden roofs and domes of the Patala gleamed in the brilliant sunshine. Let's see. Maybe I should do this. That's what I'm reading. The chapter one. Oh, there's there's a there's a echo, kind of. Uh, the golden roofs and domes of the Patala gleamed. Patala is that building in Lhasa, Tibet, where the Dalai Lama used to live. Now it's like a museum because the Chinese took over Tibet. Oh, but this was written maybe in the 1950s or 60s. And it talks about this Tibetan monk, but he says he transported his mind into the body of an Englishman, and then the Englishman wrote this book. And talks about the third eye, or how they opened the third eye during operation. Yeah, it talks a little bit about Buddhism. Right? Let's chill out. Oh, there's Oh Money Pay Me Home. Let's see if you can see that. Oh. Oh. Er, er, er. Oh. Oh. There it is. Is it right? Oh Money Pay Me Home. That's one way of writing it. Yeah, it looks kind of Tibetan. Hmm. Oh, so it says here Tibetans who have studied the true teachings of Buddha never pray for mercy or for favors, but only that they may receive justice from man. Man in capital M. A supreme being, as the essence of justice, cannot show mercy to one and not to another, because to do so would be a denial of justice. Oh, what? So, yes, Lucia. Oh. Ah, is there a lot of echo? Or is it on my side? Let's try. Let's try turning this off here. What's that? Let's go over here. Oh. Uh, oh, how's that? Now, how's that? Hello? Anybody home? Hmm? Oh, hello? Are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, you're there. Yes. So I have a question. Oh, I'll turn this off. I have a question for you, Lucia. Let's see. What is the question? Like when you grew up in Venezuela, well, were you learning about praying, or when I grew up and learned about praying, what was that like? Oh, we learned a Ave Maria? No. Uh, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Yes, Catholic. Like repeating a prayer like a mantra. Ah,
Yes, I grew up vegetarian because my parents were Catholic and all my family is Catholic. So I studied in a Catholic uh, school and I have a very strict Catholic education. Um, yes, I learned that early in my childhood.
grew up strict, Catholic. Mm, yes.
Yes, yes, very strict education. I was in a Catholic school with nuns, and then I was a teacher of catechism at the church. Yes, all my family is Catholic. They have that religion. So yeah, I know what about that.
Wait. Echo. Mm, cat, catechism. Catechism? Catechismo. And yes, and then I learned that you could pray for things. Or maybe people say, mm, rezar por lo que uno quiera. No, that's not that. Or what about mm, doing something for oh Christmas? Mm, Christmas and Santa Claus. If you're good, then you will get presents.
No, my family doesn't believe in Santa Claus. In Venezuela, we believe more in Niño Jesús. So we usually write a letter to Niño Jesús, that is the baby Jesus. Is the Niño Jesús who brings toys and presents and blessings to the families on Christmas Eve. We don't, we, at least my generation, it doesn't have these beliefs about Santa Claus. It's more about Niño Jesus. Perhaps the current people, because all the transculturization, believe more in Santa, or have like both beliefs, no, Santa and Niño Jesus. But that is the tradition in Venezuela, especially
Mm,
in those towns that are very traditional with the Catholic norms, and uh, they are very secluded. They are very isolated from the bigger cities. They practice this a lot, so it's a little bit different.
mhm. Yes, yes. I've heard some people say that prayer, that praying for something from a God, to a God that is just, uh, the if the God is just, he shouldn't answer anybody's prayer, because doing so would be unjust, because that's favoritism. You're favoring one over the other, because if if one person is praying that another person dies, and that same person is praying that the other person dies, then God listens to those prayers, then who is he going to answer to? So he would have to have favoritism. So God would say, I like this person better than the other. So that means that if God is just, then he should not answer any of our prayers. Maybe he's listening to all our prayers and laughing. It says something like that here. It says Tibetans who have studied the true teachings of Buddha never pray for mercy or for favors, but only that they may receive justice from man. A supreme being, as the essence of justice, cannot show mercy to one and not to another, because to do so would be a denial of justice. To pray for mercy or favors, promising gold or incense, if the prayer is answered, is to imply that salvation is available to the highest bidder, that God is short of money and can be bought. So man can show mercy to man, but very rarely does. The supreme being can show only justice. So we are immortal souls. Our prayer, Om Mani Padme Hum, which is written here, is often translated literally as "Hail to the jewel in the lotus." We who have gone a little further know that the true meaning is "Hail to man's over self." Over self. That's a word is is used in this book, over self, but it's not used in actual today's Tibetan Buddhism or in Kadampa Buddhism. Oh, maybe it's equivalent to the to the very subtle mind. Very subtle mind. There is no death for the very subtle mind. For the body is. As one doffs one's clothes at the end of the day, so does the soul doff the body when the latter sleeps. Doff, I guess doff means throw away. As a suite of clothes is discarded when worn out, so does the soul discard the body when the latter is torn, no, is worn or torn. So death is birth because then you have to be born. Dying is merely the act of being born in another plane of existence. Man or the spirit of man is eternal. The body is but the temporary garment that clothes the spirit, to be chosen according to the task in hand upon earth. Outward appearance does not matter. The soul within does. A great prophet may come in the guise of a pauper. How better can one judge of man's charity to man? While one who has sinned in a past life may this time be born to riches to see if he makes mistakes when there is not poverty to drive him on. Hmm. The will of life is what we call the act of being born, living in some world, dying, going back to the spirit state, and in time being reborn in different circumstances and conditions. A man may suffer much in a life. It does not necessarily mean that he was evil in a past life. It may be the best and quickest way of learning certain things. Practical experience is a better teacher than hearsay. One who commits suicide may be reborn to live out the years cut short in the past life, but it does not follow that all who die young or as babies were suicides. The will of life applies to all beggars, kings, men and women, colored people, and white. The will is but a symbol, of course, but one which makes matters clear to those who have no time to make a long study of the subject. One cannot explain Tibetan belief in a paragraph or two. The Kangyur, or Tibetan scriptures, consist of over 100 books on the subject, and even then, it is not fully dealt with. There are many books hidden within remote monasteries, which are seen by initiates alone. Hmm. Oh, oh. Mm, mm. Oh, there's no one else but us two. Oh, and uh, my clones. There's three of Haido, Jamyang Powell. Uh, Dominic hasn't showed up. There's regulars that show up, Dominic and who else? Sometimes a guy named Joel in Canada. Sometimes maybe they'll show up later. And sometimes new people show up. So thank you for showing up, Lucia Cortez.
You are
Today
title.
is the last day of the year. And tomorrow, the first day of the new year. Hmm. And my resolution is to fix my room. It's a mess. Uh, Well, I've been saying that all last. To I bought some paint. I'm thinking of painting in the board in green. Mm. Oh, uh, do you do you need a TV? A big TV? I have an extra large TV. Bigger than these. Bigger than this one. This one back there. Mm. This it might. Mm. Let's see. Oh, oh. Do we have class tomorrow? Let's find out. Meditation in Orlando. Mm. Mhm. Meditate. Huh? In- uh, Option in Orlando. .org. Let's see. What is happening in the calendar? Oh, there's something happening today. Well, tomorrow. Long life. Amitaya. Like date. What about next month? December. Oh,
What what's is happening today?
yeah. What is happening tomorrow at Kadampa at Vajrapani? Oh, there's a Sunday class and there's a retreat. The morning and 3 retreat sessions. The morning teaching will actually be perfect preparation for the prayers to Amitaya's Buddha of good fortune. Oh, wisdom and long life, and good health. Hmm. The this retreat includes guided meditation and chanted prayers. Hmm? But I have a problem. If when we pray to God, this God is just, so He shouldn't answer our prayers because there might be conflict of interest. But in the likewise, if we pray to Amitaya Buddha for a long life, oh, maybe that's okay because our long life shouldn't affect the long life of someone else, or should it? What if there's limited resources and there's not enough food to go around? And if you pray for a long life, that would take away the food of the other. So maybe you have to, what can you do? I'll sacrifice my life so that the other can live a long life. Mm. Well, that's what's happening tomorrow from 12 to 4:30 p.m. Oh, we have a friend joining us. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, welcome, Dominic.
Good morning to all the variations of Jaro. And hi, Lucia.
Yes, we have friend Lucia Cortez from Venezuela. And we have Dominic Tersini from Italian family background. And he is living in Toronto, Canada. And Lucia is living in my neighborhood or city or metropolitan area. I'm in Winter Park. And Lucia Cortez is somewhere north.
You didn't pick any topics this morning, guys?
Yes, I was thinking when we pray, if we pray to a just God, then there will be a conflict of interest, because if I pray that something will happen to another person, and that person prays that something happened to me, or something like that, that requires a decision from God to, he cannot answer both of them, so he has to choose between the two. Like say, one person prays for the death of the other, and the other prays for the death of that first one. So they're both praying for something to happen to each other, but it will cause the death of one or the other. So what is God to do? Does he flip a coin to make it just? If God is a just God,
Well, then are you saying he's like are we playing the ideal that forget about the contents of the prayer as much as is a God like a judge? Would he have to weigh in on the person's intent?
Then maybe the God will answer the prayer, but he'll weigh things out, like put a scale and put the karma of one person and the karma of the other, and then if the scale goes heavier towards the one with the most karma, then the judge will say, okay, that person wins the prayer tiebreaker. So the other person, or that person that won, gets their prayer answered, and the other person does not get their prayer answered. So how's that? How would that work? Something like that. And because I was reading in The Third Eye, this book, The Third Eye, it's a little story, but it has some information on Buddhism, like what do people believe in that are Buddhist from being born Buddhist? Well, they might pray for like there's a workshop, no, or on the calendar tomorrow. There's something about praying to Amitabha Buddha, and it's a Buddha for long life. So maybe if you pray to that Buddha, then you will get a long life secured. Well, your karma, when you're born, it determines how long you will live, approximately, if everything goes well. or you're set to live so long. Maybe that's biological. That that you're set. Oh, you're gonna probably live to be 100 years old if you don't fall off the cliff. So,
Well, Jorge, you've kind of put a couple of inquiries there, you know, hence the word prayer. It's actually what it really supposed to imply. You were talking about what happened if you're praying, first of all, to a just God. That was the first inquiry that you had. This is why sometimes you go around in different branches. And then another one is what you pray about. And then you bring in the Buddhas and all that other stuff. One, if you're inquiring about something and then rightfully you deserve it and somebody else can make it happen, then it will be fulfilled. But what about if you inquire about something and it just gives you like a lead, like, you know, when people go to fortune tellers, would they actually go if they already knew the outcome? Meaning that it was more of a negative one opposed to a positive one. And when I say positive or negative, one is known and one isn't known. Would people go? They probably wouldn't. So what most people do is they already know their answers. So they're not really inquiring. They're trying to confirm. This is why, you know, the Romans, when they used to say they prayed to a god and they would use things like a dice or all these different other instruments, they would be asking the unknown that, will my pursuit be successful? You know, that's the ego being fed constantly.
did you say dice?
Yeah, people used to use
Like-
dices
Like
or tea
throwing a
leaves.
dice?
Yep, exactly. Mhm.
Like throwing coins?
Yep.
Oh, here's my coins.
Mhm.
My Chinese coins in this bag.
That's why the Chinese, they had 64 different combinations. So they would have, this is what people do even with tarot cards. You know, when you're flipping tarot cards, that,
This side,
you know, well, even though it was inserted after the death card or the fool
one
card.
side is heads and the other side is tails. Oh
Mhm.
no. I forgot which.
So in a way, it's as much it's chance. So you're doing
Those three
chance.
of them. And
Keep in mind,
you count heads number 2 and tails number 3, and you add them together and you could get 7, 8, or 9.
Jaro, a lot of it's associated with some other kind of
No,
inquiry
6,
on
7, 8, or 9. 4 possibilities. And so you can get a yin line, a yang line,
yes.
an old yin yang, and an old yang line. The old is going to change back to the other. Like if it's an old yin, it's gonna die and become a yang.
Mhm.
And so you do that 6 times and you get a line for each of those
Okay.
6. Oh,
Yeah.
it
Jaro,
forms
yeah,
a hexagram.
I get you're explaining now.
Then you
but
get 64 hexagrams.
But
to look
you're
up.
deviating, Gerald. This is how we get off topic. You're deviating from the thing about prayer, let alone to an unknown God or a God. Is he or it or rightful God? Remember, those are branches, and I know your mind wonderfully works that way. Again, I'm just giving you some of the words that prayer could mean. I go with the idea it means inquire, like the word peace. For me, I go with the word silence or meditate, listen. So if you have an inquiry, whether it's for yourself or for others, most people, when they do pray for others, again, they're going to pray for positive things or something that's healthy. You're giving an example of somebody being harmful to another person. This is where people go around with blessings and curses, opposed to prayer for ask for assistance to know whether or not this is a pursuit I should do for my kids or whatever. It's you're asking more for assistance opposed to telling a God or something a demand. I know that's when I know that's the ego.
Mm-hmm.
The ego is always wanting something for itself that it lacks, which is fine. But are you asking as an inquiry? Like you're coming to me asking for wisdom. Think about wisdom. Wisdom is discernment, to discern the difference. Is it fair that humanity should reap the way it is ignorant kind of ideal? And I would say yes. Why? Because if you're ignorant, you should get whatever comes your way without any complaints or happiness out of it. Opposed to, have you put a lot of thought about your actions, what you say before you even do an action?
So there's many kinds of prayer. So
Sure. Well,
there's the prayer that you ego wants something desperately to happen, so you pray for it, or it could be your loved one is dying, so you ask that the God or whoever or a Buddha, that the person your loved one will overcome the difficulty.
No, that's demand
Right.
now, Jaro. That what you're asking is a demand. If you went into the unknown realm, you would ask about why that person is sick. And then they would say they've got their just rewards. They've lived a very unhealthy life, so now they deserve cancer. It's not a bad or good thing. See, you're thinking that the gods
Then
are Jaro.
we
Hold
should
on,
pray
Jaro. Okay.
for the person that is dying of cancer or is in difficulty to overcome their ego, that they have a good death. Pray that they suffer less.
Again, Jaro, you're using the word prayer, but you're not actually. It's like using a word and not using the right meaning with it. So in this particular case, Gyro, if there's such thing as gods, and I'm going to use the word love. Love is more of an unconditional. So for most people, what they do is they call it the word love, but it's not. It's obligation or duty. If love is unconditional, more times now you're in the realm of condition. So if somebody's kind, if a gods are kind, they can also be cruel. They're unconditional. They don't weigh in on judgments. They do discernment. So if you're going to pray, think about the Buddha. Let me pray and fast. Let me abstain from eating because my higher source needs to participate in this decision making. But also, it might not even be a decision. It'll just be an inquiry. Maybe you aren't the decision maker. You're the one that just has to follow through. You go to your military leader, your commander, and you ask him what you want needs to be done. You don't go there and say, well, I already know I want to go over there. No, you go there with an open and receptive mind and heart and all these other different receivers. And then that commander will say, I need you to be over there. And then your job is just to act it out. But if you're going to worry about somebody being sick without knowing some of its parts, its effects and side effects, because more times now we're not going to know what the causes are. I don't know why I live a certain amount of years, but I get where you're going with it. Most people are trying to deviate from not learning from one variations of suffering called resistance to pain. The other one is attachments to comforts and pleasures. How many people actually go to the gods or whatever and pray, inquire about why am I successful? And how can I better serve humanity?
Oh, thank you, Dominic, for keeping me on track.
No, I'm not keeping you on track. It's just I know we can have fun.
Or for considering all the possibilities about the word prayer, how it's in determining where am I going with this.
Well, again, Jaro, I have a particular share on that view where, again, I'm using a language that can have many meanings to it. So because we have so many human beings that use the same language, prayer could be described in many ways. A person can say, yeah, but I use prayer for this. I'm like, okay, that's fine. No different than other people. This is why we have to learn the wonderful word called respect, which is called consider. You consider other people's views. I'm just saying that if you brought up the inquiry about more or less about to a God. We're playing with the idea of a God. You can call it aliens, you can call it whatever words you want, but something that's unknown. I lean towards there is source, because then I would have to question how trees and clouds came to be. You know, if people want to play with the idea it's a big bang, well, cars just didn't show up. There was things that were a continuous process. So eventually something eventually became called a car. That's usually a very weak-minded person. You know, forget about free will-minded person. They're a weak-minded person. They're not really engaging in all the different possibilities. So
Lucia, Lucia, are you still there? Are you listening?
Are we listening or hearing each other?
Yes, yes.
Hi, Lucia.
What do you think? Or did you find anything interesting?
I'm listening.
Yes. If you want to interrupt us, you can raise your hand or just shout it out or say something. You can interrupt us whenever, because we interrupt each other.
It's
Oh, no,
fine.
we intercede. Thanks, Lucia. We just intercede.
Figure out where to break in. So is this interesting?
I guess when you're hearing something, Jarvo and Lucia, I'm glad that I heard your voice, but hearing is the most important, or listening. When people are communicating with each other, there could be an inquiry, and then we are receivers. And then eventually something will spew out. Is just other people don't realize how to speak out when they want to, and other people don't understand sometimes how to allow others, it just is for them to speak. Because people have forgotten how to ask questions and then stop long enough to listen from within. That's one way. You know, it's like you could be with somebody, Jaro, and you think that they're looking at you, but they're not really looking at you. They're looking past you. They're looking at a sunset. People want each other's attention, but the attention should be done from within. You should be able to hear others and then listen from within. This is what some people call the concept of multitasking, even though we do it in many ways. So for you, I've heard numerous times in past, you ask a lot of questions, but you're thinking that most of them are going to be answered or some sort of other possibility outside, when it's usually inside. Because even if it is outside, then you have to ask the other question, have you ever been outside? Like when you look through your eyes, the soul, you know, leads to the soul kind of idea. When you look across the street, have you ever been over there? Are you still always here? A lot of people just forget that. And they mask it by thinking, well, I'm older. I said, you still haven't really become aware of that. You know, that's why when I tell people, I said, are you really a teacher? What do you mean? Well, who's ever taught you how to breathe? And once you realize in that moment, well, nobody, I said, your teacher's never been outside. Now you can have lessons, but it doesn't mean there's a teacher out there. It just means you have lessons. We just assume that we associate the word teacher and lesson. No, the student benefits way more than any kind of teacher would ever benefit. And in our world, inside, you have way more teachers. It's not like here outside you have maybe 4 or 5 people. Like my parents never taught me how to breathe. My parents never taught me once I eat my food, who does all the processing. There's something that's always here. Now, people will have the ideal, well, then I'm the one that runs the body. I said, really? So when you go to sleep, who's running the body? When you're talking and you're hearing me, who's running the body? That's not what we call the ego, the mind, the I. But yet people want to pray for it. That's why people make carven statues outside, because we can only see ourselves. But then again, I don't know who Lucia is. I don't know her story. I don't know what Jaro's story is. I wasn't there when you're asleep, when you're awake, when you were a baby. Those are all individual stories that we all have. Now, I'm hoping and I don't like to lean too much on hope, there is what people call the gods. It's like, would Siri, the computer, turn around and say, well, who made me? Especially if we give it all that input. This is why when we give all our input, or we all give our attention towards a person, then we wonder why when we make them famous, or we make them like a religious person, like a pope or whatever, that they get all that energy. I said, that's too much energy for one human being to have. Because then we eventually can't relate with anymore, because we can't relate with the ideal that I'm just an average human, which we should all be to a certain point. Now, there is the being part. But again, Jaro, I've deviated now because the topic was about, or heard the word prayer, and to who, in this case, to a God. And I think the way you put it was, how did you put it, Jaro? Was it a rightful God, a just God?
Just God.
A just God. Okay, so what is just, first of all? Stern, makes a decision, doesn't waver back and forth. So if both people ask the other
Is
person,
a fair God? Like will not like if a God is listening to everyone's prayer, then it doesn't matter their background, or nobody can bribe that God, or such a God should not favor one or over the other, that kind of thing.
okay, so then you have to throw fairness out there, because we aren't designed in what that concept of fairness. But a just God will weigh in, like a just judge will weigh in on all the different things, and they won't waver, and then they'll make a stern decision. And so if two people are wanting the other person to die, they might weigh it in and say, give them both what they want, opposed to picking one over the other. And even if he does pick one over the other, are you really going to understand the decision? Because the other person says, well, it's like samurais. The guys that fight samurais, they have an oath.
The justice, the state of mind of the person praying. And so,
okay, but hold on, Jaro.
What is the state of mind of the person praying?
Let's go with it. They both are asking for the other person to die. Okay, so the gods or some judge will say, okay, I won't give you both what you want, so both of your gifts are going to come back to you. So they both ask for the other person to die. It didn't come to them, so then they die. That's one reason. Then if the God says, okay, we'll both give you the gifts, I'll allow you, I'll kill that other person. See, the difference is, what happened if the judge says, okay, you both have asked for that person to die. Okay, no problem. I'm okay with that. But the thing is, you're the one that has to do it. You're the one that said the other person has to die, and then the person has to die. Then you have to do it. You see, people want this magical part. They want the material. You know, if that was the case, then we might as well always pray for gold, the alchemy of gold, because there's the thought of gold, and then there's the material that we call gold. So if all of a sudden I'm rich and I want more more gold, but I'm the one that actually doing anything, the judge or the God would have to say, well, Dom, you asked for gold, but you also have a machine that makes gold, right? So I'll make sure I'll bless you that much more, or I'll favor you, in this case, favor, because there's nothing to favor in that sense. The other person's not doing nothing. If all of a sudden, and I've heard people say this, I hope my child gets healthy and they're in the hospital, this and that. I said, okay, but your child basically got hurt driving his motorcycle on the highway really fast. Where were you in the process of ever telling him prior to that, if you were aware that your son was driving the motorcycle really fast? You want me to clean up after your spilt milk. That's most humans that follow shit like that. And I'm sorry about the word shit, but they follow that, but they don't really see their participation or lack of it. Because usually when a person wants to harm another person, that's usually their feelings, and they're not developed. This is why we have wars, because their feelings aren't developed. Now, if you really do have an honorable inquiry, it would be for the favorment of the whole, or at least the community. That's why people used to go to wise people, whether it's a woman or a man, and they say, okay, I'm a farmer. Can you give me wise decision? Where does the sun and moon? When's the best time to grow my crops? And a wise person, which be somebody that would be very scientific, would say the moon is in a certain location, same with the sun. This would be your best time to actually start planting seeds. And then that person might have to go to another wise person and find out what horse would be best for this time, what kind of ground. See, we do it all, but we've just forgotten because we look at our ancestors like they weren't that wise. Most of them were way more gifted than we were because they had to learn many crafts. So for you, Jaro, if you were going to use you as an example, are you really praying for others, both positive and negative, and wanting to know the devil in the detail or God's in the detail? Or are you just saying it because, like we do, we impulse buy things, impulsively buy a book, impulsively eat food? I say that from my own experience too. So I'm not talking from a point of view, I'm guessing. You know, I rarely ask things from the unknown, but when I do, I got to be prepared to realize there's going to be a lot of parts to it. You know, I own a big company and say, listen, I've done already all the work. I've hired the right administration, and I've got the right people to hire the right people. So I just want the end result now, but I put a lot of work and effort into it. So then why would a God or gods come all the way down here to hear humans' little fickle little views like, oh, I don't like that person, so can you make sure that they are sick or whatever? I'm like, okay, but what are you going to do for me? This is where people have to realize, be careful when you play with white and black magic. What are you going to do for me after you're no longer living in that form for 70 or 80 years? Now, I could be talking fairy tale right now, but what is? You know, when people close, they basically go in a little dark little room and ask for something. Is it not going to show itself up in the light? So what's more powerful, what's in the dark or what's in the light? I say that jokingly because, you know, I do understand when people talk about things like the light versus the darkness. We do come into the light, but where are we coming from? Are those a just inquiry, maybe opposed to if the gods or a god or gods are judges? Are we judging ourselves correctly? Are we judging the situation correctly? Or are we having discernment? There's a big difference. Judgment is the ego. Discernment is the being part. You know? And what do you want? We want more material. It's a given when most all of us, if not, that's what we're generalizing, but most of us, if not all of us, where once you're born, you're eventually inevitably going to face the concept called death. Every time you breathe, you're also going to have that out breath too, but it's the in-between part. We want more of that and less of that. We want more attachments and comforts and less suffering in a form of resistance and all that. But what we're really doing is we're forming an attachment to all our comforts. How many people would leave and no longer live in a warm, comfortable house or apartment and go live out in wilderness, go live with what God's created? But then we would have to change our bodies. Or get used to them. There's so many inquiries, but yet, and I'm only using it as an example, Jaro, because I think it was a made-up one, but people probably do that stuff, to be so worried and petty about harming another human being. I tell people all the time, I said, if you truly don't care about me, it doesn't matter what I say. It's when a person says, well, Dominic, I don't like what you're saying. I says, well, then you are caring. Most people are indifferent in the sense of, what are some of the parts? What happens when most people are very poor in the world? How does that affect the rest of us? How does it affect that the few are rich? And when I say poor or rich, not necessarily just financially, mentally, emotionally. How many people consider other people when they have certain gifts or curse? They're very intuitive, they're channelers, they understand how to be a mother, how to be a father. Do we learn from each other anymore? Or do we feel as though we have to go in some sort of little square little room called a school or a church? And yet we still want other people to govern over us that are just as weak as we are. It'd be different if you want some other unknown entity called God's ruling over us. But to have humans rule over us, that'll never work. And it's shown it's never worked. One thing they end up settling for is that they have a lifestyle for maybe 70 or 80, or maybe some of them 100, 110. Now, some people say, well, Dominic, but how would you know all that stuff? I said, why do you have to live many lives to know that? You just have to go inwards. There's many teachers from within. But if a person just wants to live a very physical life, well, then most people just can't even remember what they did the first 10 years of their life. And if they did, what parts do you remember? The glamorous parts? The part that you got hurt when you were a child? It's like when people say they got molested, no offense, I'm saddened to all parties involved. But when somebody does get molested, what did they have for breakfast? Oh, I don't remember. What did you have for lunch? I don't remember. But you'll remember one part. And then think the other person's at fault. Well, they have their own accountability. But people have a tough time even hearing that because their feelings isn't developed enough to at least entertain the idea. Don't you think when somebody harms another person, they're both going to actually affect karma? I guess, Jaro, it all depends on what you're, and I'm using the word.
What do you think?
I'm sure what I'm thinking.
What do you think, Lucia, about
Jaro, she already told you she's going to listen. You've already given her the option. You've already given her the option that she can intercede anytime she wants. So, Jaro, if you're,
she doesn't have to answer, but I was wondering, what do you think about prayer? And is it how do you use prayer?
Well, you can share, Jaro. Share what you've just got. I've just shared openly, and you've already given her that option. If she's more than, I'll clearly keep quiet. Same with you. But this is how sometimes you say just what Jaro thinks.
I think price depends on intention as your actions. If your price are with good intention, even if you think, and that's the critical part. That's the key. If your mind is sufficiently stable, um, uh, under control, that you can seek a goal or seek a wish or seek a intention that is real and not something that is bad, that causes pain and suffering to others. So intention is very important when you pray and when you also practice any kind of belief, no? Um, if it's about God, if it's about Buddha, or if it's about any spirits or whatever you want to believe, intention is the most important part. That's my opinion.
Well done, Lucia. Yes, intention plays a major role in the energy you give to it. I don't lean towards whether it's good or bad, because if it was, then we have to examine it outside. So then we're saying all the bad behaviors of humans, their wishes or their inquiries didn't come to fruition. We are creatures that are from within, beings that we're observers. And it's like the gods, some of them have stepped down, the demi ones anyway, and they wanted to interact with humans. So they no longer wanted to be watchers. They wanted to interact, and that's fine. But when they started impregnating women, they started giving them gifts from within the womb. This is where we get alchemy. So again, I'm with you, Lucia. Intention is the energy that you give to it is important, but there's more parts than that, because when I hear somebody say, if it's good, well, it all depends what it means by good. Good can mean spiritual, evil can mean material, or bad. And sometimes people like to use the word bad, right or wrong, opposed to right or left. It all depends on who you're doing it for. Like, love is not just about a parent telling their child, I love you. Love is actually when a child sees the parent loving somebody else's kid. That child actually sees love. So if somebody's wanting a blessing for somebody, would you also give them a curse? And if a person says no, I say, well, then you're not willing to do the whole cycle. It's like a friend. If you want somebody to be your friend, you got to be prepared for them to be your enemy too. Unfortunately, most people get caught up in, this is kind of like the half glass, half full and half empty. They see one, but they ignore the other. They favor their likes, but not their dislikes. We're here to experience everything, if we can, in one lifespan, let alone many lifespans. Now, some people might say, I don't believe in all that. I said, then what do you believe in? Science, religion?
Jorge.
Woohoo. Thanks, by the way,
We
Lisa,
have
for sharing.
Jorge in the house.
Woohoo. Love it.
He's from, is that Jorge Hernandez?
I'm gonna beat him to the punch, and our wife's teacher, because he always does that with us.
Hola, Jorge.
Good morning, everyone. How
This
are
is
you?
Jorge
Yes,
Hernandez in Texas.
yes, from Houston. Good morning,
Houston.
Lucia. Good morning, Dominic. Good morning, Jairo.
Lucia from Venezuela. Jorge from Mexican.
From Mexico, yes.
Mexico. Were you born in Mexico?
Yes, I was born and
Wow.
raised in Mexico.
Were you?
Wow.
Oh,
Did
was your
you
body?
cross the southern border before Trump put up the wall? That you
Yeah,
never-
way before I came to the United States in the early 90s.
Okay.
in the 90s?
Mhm.
Wow. And why did you come
No, here's
to
all the introductory.
America?
Here's the autobiography.
Chasing the American dream.
Woohoo. Is it a dream? A nightmare is still a dream too, by the way.
I'm still dreaming too. I couldn't find it. I want to go back to Mexico.
Oh.
Maybe it was there.
And did you make it possible by using the Silva mind control method to make your dreams come true?
To be honest, no, I didn't. I met Silva method once a couple years later. I get to the United States. I met Silva mind method. I met philosophy. I met metaphysics with what is this teacher? I forgot his name. Emmett Fox, and a lot of wonderful teachers that I found in a library. Joel, good morning, Joel.
Good morning, Jorge.
Joel in Canada, also Toronto, Canada.
¿Cómo va, everyone?
Joel, but you can call
Muy
him
bien,
Joe.
muy bien.
What's
And
happening in Florida? It's like pea soup out here in Toronto.
It's like pea soup?
Yeah, you don't know that expression?
No.
No, I don't.
Pea soup is a famous French-Canadian dish, but it's very thick. So here it's foggy and rainy, so sometimes you compare the weather to pea soup.
Oh, okay.
No.
Interesting.
Hello, Lucia. Or is it Lucia?
Or it could be Lucia.
Or Lucy.
I had a friend named
Lucy,
Lucia from
Lucia.
Brazil.
Want to bring Joe up to speed? Oh, go ahead, Joe.
In Spanish is Lucia. In Portuguese is Lucia.
Are you in Brazil, Lucia?
No, I'm from Venezuela.
Oh, Venezuela. My neighbor down the hall is from Venezuela. Very nice family.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So what's everybody discussing? Hi, Dominic.
Hi, Joe. Go ahead, Joe. Joe, maybe introduce for the guys, what the topic or what your topic was about.
Yes, I find it interesting, the concept of prayer and the practice of prayer. Maybe in w- seeing that, or people wonder if Buddhists are atheists or don't believe in a God, then when they pray, what do they pray to? Oh, but Buddhists pray that all beings, all sentient beings be happy. So they're always praying to thinking about others, and they not suffer. And then maybe that gives you maybe by doing that, it removes your ego from just praying for stuff. I want this to happen. And then if you pray for your stuff or for the betterment of your condition, then who is listening to that prayer? I guess only yourself is, your over self or your higher self or your soul is listening to that prayer, maybe, or the universe is listening to it, and it changes the conditions around you for it to happen, like the law of attraction or something like that. Like or when you have you heard of visualization, where you visualize something in the future and then it comes about? Or like athletes, sports athletes, they rehearse what they're about to do, and so that when they do it, it happens easily, successfully. What do you think, Joel? Do you? Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm not so involved in what happens in the future. I try to keep myself interested in what's actually happening here and now. And I don't know whether prayer, whatever you call that, who you're praying to, if you have to pray to somebody. So all I know is I have enough trouble just describing what I see in front of me and trying to understand what others see in front of them.
There's different concept. It's not exclusive prayer for people that are religious. This is where the atheists, they just don't believe in a God or a creator, so they would lean more towards science. So Joe, I'm only going to guess here. I'll just spew out loud and tell me if you've ever done it. When you're planning to go to Japan, did you look and try to see what the weather was going to be like in the future?
Yep.
Okay, so inquire. So if me and you were talking to our GPS and it responded back to us, or I went to a book and get a reference book, that's inquiry, that's prayer. See, people just think traditionally it's just you're praying to an unknown source. Well, if I'm actually communicating to a computer called Siri and I'm asking, how's my stocks doing in the now, or maybe can you project what it might be in the future? That's prayer.
Oh,
So, but unfortunately, I heard you say, Joe, that's why I'm interceding a little bit, because you say you never pray. Well, you do. You just don't know what it always is. This is why we have many meaningful words, meaningful things towards a word. So when somebody is praying, some people will say, I want this outcome. I say, well, then you're not really praying as much as you're demanding. So it's like when people, if you already know the answer, you're playing chance. This is where I was talking earlier with the gods. The Romans, when they used to pray to their gods, they used to do things like a dice or the jinxing and all that. They already kind of know what they want. Same with tarot cards. They're wanting some sort of confirmation or assistance, but you still got to do it. If you want somebody to be, as Jar was using earlier, praying to a just God about, getting somebody else to die. Okay, I'm okay with that, but you still got to fulfill it. You talk to your commander. Okay, so you want to do this. Okay, but you still got to fulfill it. We participate in all that kind of stuff. Prophecy could be, Joel, I'm going to be at your house next week sometime, and we're going to have coffee. And all of a sudden, I come next week and I make it happen. Then I'm a prophet. Then I'm making it happen. What people are really talking about is magic without any action, where I'm going to think, well, I'm going to, I want something to show up. I want to win $1 million. Well, you're going to participate and you're going to buy a lottery ticket. But I didn't win. I said, but you participated. Well,
So
but it didn't come true. Go ahead.
So is that a prayer for you, Dominic?
Not me per se. I'm an observer of it. When you're trying to observe things, when you're using a language and all, and you're observing other people, most people don't observe really outside. They observe from within. They might see outside what they want, but yet when you try to go grab it, let's say I see a tree outside, I go to grab it and I'm hanging onto the tree, and then I see a rope on the other side there. Next thing you know, I can't do all those things.
Yeah, but just the act that if the example that you were saying about buying a lottery ticket and praying.
No, I don't buy a lottery ticket per se, but I do another lottery every time I go in a car. I hope I have a safe return. That's a lottery ticket in itself, but I'm participating in all of that. The ideal is most people, I use the word something for nothing. And I've done this even with jobs where a person said, but I'm going to pay. I said, no, you're missing it. We live, go ahead.
I have a safe return.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's maybe we could consider that to be a prayer. I hope that or when you tell someone have a nice day, maybe that's a prayer that they have a nice day. And they're saying it to the universe.
And that's why I'll say jokingly to people, oh, you put all that pressure on me, and they'll giggle. I said, no, you did. Why? Because I'm the one that has to fulfill that. I have to now go out and make sure I have a nice day. I have to be aware that I'm having a nice day. Most people are just ignorant. So if they're ignorant, like somebody says, how's the weather? And I'm one door away from going outside, I'll tell them straight out, go out.
Have a nice day. We could put the word choose to. So when we say have a nice day, or where someone says have a nice day to us, and when we buy something, the clerk says have a nice day or something like that. Happy New Year's or something like that.
Sure.
Then put the word choose to have a nice day.
Yeah,
so I choose to have a nice day today, and I choose to be happy.
Yeah, well, Jaro, once again, we sell a lot of things to people. You rarely hear people say other things such as have a shitty day out there. They say, why would you say that? I said, no different why I would say have a nice day. You got to be able to be the observer of those things. But most people are already caught up in their likes. That's what confirms it. If I do it purposely, have a shitty day, and the person stops, I'm thinking, you just revealed to me you have just likes and you try to avoid it. So you're the kind of person you can see the glass either half full or half empty, but you can't observe that they're both there. Let alone, what about the table?
We can learn more in a day by having a shitty day. So if we're bored and we feel like we're not learning anything, we could say to ourselves, may I have a shitty day so that I may learn.
But Jar, you're doing this, you're doing the same thing when you say the other way. Again, most people don't really observe themselves.
May I have a nice day and learn as much as I can.
You could do that. This is why, in America, they say, what's the word they say? Land of the free and the pursuit of happiness. They don't talk about the pursuit of growth. Happiness. They've already sold you something. Would you go to America? Would you go to America if it was the land of the slaves and the pursuit of barely surviving? If you're economically becoming well off, they would still come. A lot of people it's not because they're coming to America, it's where they're leaving.
Well, it's that time of the day.
Here we go.
Where is it? Oh, here it is.
So in Canada is different. People think different. All the people think different. Dominic, in Canada.
Well, okay, there's millions of there's millions of people in Canada. There's no way I could represent them. Now, when we're talking about Canada, we're talking about this. I live in Toronto, Canada. I've been to other major cities. There's similarities in all the cities. If we're looking at the city, so I can't really answer that question as a whole. For me, I could say, Canada's a nice place.
Paper using chance. And randomness, I will pull out the wisdom for today, for the ages, for us to pray on, meditate on. Let's see.
Mhm.
Let's see. Hmm. Oh, let's see. What does it say?
Don't tell me you got the flu again, Joe.
No, no, my nose is just running a little bit from the changing temperature. I had COVID and finished with it, thank goodness. But yeah, I'm not sick now, thank goodness.
Good. That's
The disease, the disease, the sickness, the disease of life is called perception of plurality. This is caused by a very powerful germ called ego or separative idea. Take the mixture regularly. Cure is sure. Shake the bottle, the intellect, before use. After use, cork it with a controlled mind. Hmm. So the cure, what is the cure? The cure is this bottle of wisdom. So we shake it vigorously and pull out the medicine
So did you get that
to
part, Gerald?
apply.
Gerald, before you jump around there, did you get the idea of the polarity or duality realm?
The polarity,
Yes.
that would be good versus evil, hot versus cold,
Mhm.
male or masculine versus
Mhm.
female.
So are people trying to separate that or
Feminine.
see that they actually work together?
So we have to
When you, okay,
remember
Gerald, I'm gonna put it in very more.
that
Mhm.
everything is not what it seems.
Body goes
Or-
into, Gerald, the body goes into disease, let alone the mind goes into
Oh.
disease because you're trying to separate them or ignore one over the other.
What
That's
we
why
perceive,
Mhm.
we judge, we come to a conclusion like I like this or I hate this or I'm indifferent about this.
Yes. Yep. That's
But
the ego. Gerald, you're still
the
talking to
best
ego.
thing to do
Mhm.
is to
What?
say that whatever I think about it is it's just temporary. Maybe a little while later I will like it,
Yes.
or maybe I'll hate it.
That's you putting yourself in a silent state where, Gerald,
Today you are my friend, but tomorrow you might be my enemy.
there's Q
Well,
signs,
thank you,
Gerald. Gerald, I'm trying to give you.
enemies for coming to this show, and kind mothers too.
Gerald, you're spinning it a little bit there. You said the word earlier, wisdom, discernment. Judgment's the ego talking. Discernment is when you're being wise for your being part. So if you can discern by observing the fact that we do polarities, you know, when people say words and you said it out of your own mouth, actually, when the mind, or when you read that thing, control the mind. You're supposed to observe the mind. They're there to serve you. Now, what people call the mind more times than not, they're actually just talking about their brain.
So did you Jorge, did you get that?
It doesn't matter. It's been recorded. Jaro, once again, the only person that should get
Jorge?
it.
Or what have you learned, Jorge,
About what, Jairo?
Mhm.
about anything that you've heard?
Well, I learned a lot of things, but maybe if I can say a question, eh, if we have all this knowledge, how to be independent, not to be in this case mentally slave, but how do we take this information? And for example, if we go to my country, Mexico, where the 90% of population believe in or are Christians, and they have a belief system that they don't know about this information. How do we tell them, or how do we teach them not to depend on circumstances. How do we tell them, you know what, you're praying or you're lighting a candle, but that's not gonna work? How do we do it?
Okay. Jose, I'm going to share something you so you can have a visual. Me and you are seeing a whole bunch of logs going down a river. Okay, we'll make
That
the log.
is an assumption that that's not going to work. Maybe it works, but it takes time.
Maybe, Jarl, but I'm going to give some input here on this. You're just giving vague output. So now, if you're going to, Jorge, visualize that the logs are these what you call Christians going down this water. At the end of the water, me, you both know we have discernment that we see there's a waterfall. What do you think you're going to say to the log that's going to change anything about those logs going down that river that's going to fall over that? The only person that's going to learn anything, you have discernment, they don't. See, you were talking earlier about knowledge. Knowledge is a good thing to accumulate and become aware of, but it doesn't give you wisdom and understanding. So discernment. Now, what you're judging is that you think that Catholicism, Christianity is wrong. When did we think anything's right or wrong? When I was in as a Catholic or a Christian, I didn't have a lot of information. Once I gathered a whole bunch of information, I realized, well, I can keep on gathering information, or I can start having discernment. It's like me as getting all kinds of information to do a project. Eventually, I have to assess it for myself. Other people are still going to do what they're going to do. Me and you can go, and we find out Joel decides to join a cult. I'm using as an example, Joel, and he's in a cult, and then his parents said, "I really want him out." I'm like, okay, but I don't know the whole story. You parents might have actually helped perpetuate him in to go in there, because most gangs do something that most families don't do anymore, make them feel accepted, regardless if their intention is, I'm going to use the guy. So and how do you make somebody else that's in a cult realize they're in a cult? How do you explain to somebody that to be a liberal, you could also be a conservative, or you value one person over the other? It's one of those things. The only person, once you realize you've been misled, regardless if there's a billions of you, is you. So you've chosen no longer to be, I'm going to assume, a Christian or whatever. That's the whole thing about the Plato's cave. That wasn't a metaphor for an outside cave and you're doing it. That was from inside. You finally realize from within, and then you try to share with other people. This is where I say the word, I get frustrated, because I'm still sharing out loud, but I'm hoping that other people become aware for themselves that they've been misleading themselves the whole time. But not too many people have enough balls to honestly admit to themselves they're full of shit. They might say, giggling, hee hee, I'm full of shit. No, you're genuinely full of shit. You've lived a life aimlessly. But people have a tough time, because then they'll start making all their justification. Yeah, but I became a doctor. I became a professor. I said, so did you put a dent in people getting healthier? Or are you only there to perpetuate and get paid when people get sick? Does a lawyer really help people? No, they don't. Now, temporarily, it might help that one person. So that's the common theme then. Then if you're going to be selfish, be at least rationally selfish.
Well, according to what you're saying is that everywhere you go, no matter where you live, Canada, United States, Mexico, Venezuela, Europe, is the same. Because wherever you go, you're going to find government, this belief system, these archetypes, and where people just follow and they don't question themselves.
And if we don't already have the landscape of knowing that if you have discernment, but one thing is different is the hemisphere is different here. This part of the world has snow and rain, but the human factors is pretty consistent. And that's why when you learn, know thyself first and foremost, and it might take most people a lifespan, then you can actually know others from within. But most people want to learn from without first. I said, no, it was never about knowing others. It's about knowing the self, aware of the self, loving the self, never the other way around. When people start talking about self-love and self-aware, I know that's their ego talking. When I say ego, I'm talking about their ongoing program. That's a child. That could be conditioned. All of us have learned a language. Some of us learn a couple languages. If not, some of us will learn lots of languages, because you have to factor in colors, numbers, emotional languages. But most people, they think because they look older that they're wise. I said, no. There's children out there that are wiser than most people that are 80 or 90 years old, because they can ask them, say, listen, so let me understand that. You worked 40 years and then you became retired. I'm like, no, you're retarded. Because you're here to constantly grow. You're not here just to think, well, I've learned something. And yeah, you say that jokingly, but other people would get offended. I said, no, that just tells me you're an idiot. What do you mean? There's the fool and then there's the idiot. The fool's always seeking. The idiot thinks that he always knows. There's the big difference. And how I know that is because I have moments of wisdom. That's all I have. I'm not wise. I have moments.
Yeah, true to that. And you were saying that only the kids are no. You can program a kid? No, I think we're being programming still with social media, the way you dress. You can go out from your house without a t-shirt or because you need to be like presentable to the society outside. It's you are being controlled. You're not you.
You're only being controlled if you think that you need to have control.
Then
The observer doesn't have.
Then what you dress?
Lucia,
What? Yeah, go ahead,
you
Lucia.
want to say
Oh,
something?
sorry, Jairo. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Lucia,
That's Jaro. Again, Jaro. You've put a pebble in the highway again, Jaro.
did you, Lucia, did you want to say something?
Well, I'm just listening all you guys because I think it's very hard to combine if you believe, for example, I think as one of you believe in God, no? And I believe in God and believe in Buddha too. So you mentioned sometimes, oh, the universe, this is another believing. People believe in different things, no? I think if we are clear about what we are talking about when we are crying or when we wish something, what is the knowledge and all the fundaments that we are having in our memory, in our conscience to have these prayers, we are okay. No, I think the main and more important part of this is keeping our intention clear. And this depends on how our mind is. If we are angry, we are in a state of hubris or whatever, our intention will not be good. It will not be compassionate. So if mind is in a state of happiness and peace, our intention will be for something compassionate. And so I think that's the key, the intention. No matter what you believe is in general, no? Or what is your religion. I don't. I was listening to Jorge from Mexico about the how the Christians believe that setting a candle or trying a try for a specific change or to God is effective. Well, there are people that pray to the dead there too, no? And the dead is a spiritual entity. So it doesn't matter what is your belief, is what is your intention. This is what I want to fulfill with this. That for me, that's the important part. That's it.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that, Lucia.
Okay, it's fine. Thank you.
What is your intention when praying? or when meditating, or when eating. When I eat, I should pay attention to what I'm eating. I'm eating and I'm looking at my phone. That habit. Hmm, what is my intention? Maybe every moment in life is a kind of prayer.
So what is the belief system in Canada, Joe? Well, the majority of the people, what do they believe?
I don't know if there is, first of all, I would have no way of knowing, as Dominic said, what the majority belief system is in Canada, and I'm sure it varies from place to place. But I know that I personally believe in God, love, and rock and roll music, but not necessarily in that order.
Wow, excellent.
And, don't ask me to define any of those words, because I'm sure they alone would have multiple meanings for many people. All I know is I'm here now, and I'm part of a Vinci cult. The cult has brought me in, and I'm playing Vinci online with people in Japan and California, and eventually we will overtake the world.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, I'm kidding, but
Do you need more soldiers?
sure, yeah.
Okay.
We play by email now. It's
Oh,
actually easier because sometimes people are busy, but we send one email out and we wait for each person to make their move. So I'm playing with a nice guy from California, and you guys know Hiroshi is in Japan. He's busy right now. He's teaching his students for the Japanese entrance exams, but he wants to join in, so we'll have a 3-way game online, and then or a 4-way if you want to join us, Jorge.
Wow.
okay.
So you're in a like everybody
It's like a chain email.
like an email that's got all the emails in the send to, and then
Yeah.
so you reply to all of them, to all.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and
it's like a blockchain.
and
So
you
you can't lose the move or change your move once. It's like in chess, when you take your finger off the piece, that's your final move. Once you hit send with the email, you that's your final move for that.
and you say, I want the piece on number 1 on the left side to move over to. Oh no, you don't move them. You place your pieces.
Exactly.
A piece placed on number 4 on the left side.
Yeah, well, we call it X4 and Y4. So you just specifically tell your location. It's like moving the troops in a battle. Your troop goes to this particular location. There's 17 locations and no more.
Wow.
We've never done it this way before. It's a new experiment.
Do you use WhatsApp? Maybe you could try WhatsApp, form a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, you could do any number of things, but in the meantime, the idea is that people just learn how the rules work and play a game with each other, and it's more a way of keeping in contact with people. So, if you've got someone who's, maybe like one of the guys that we contact, haven't heard from him, he's in Syracuse. So we didn't know whether he got snowed in, but he's okay. We just found out he got busy with some project with some people in Australia. So we didn't hear from him for a few days.
So may all your Vinci wishes come true.
Well, it's just a way to spend time with people and exchange ideas.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Do you have any recommendations, Joel, how to learn the game?
Yeah, I can send you an email with the instructions, or you can just watch us play.
You play on Sundays on Zoom?
No, it's hard to get specific people to show up at specific times. So I was originally gonna teach this guy on Zoom, but it kept getting screwed up. So I said, let's try it this way. And we're just trying this for now. And then I wrote to Hiroshi in Japan, and I explained to him. So here he's living in a completely different time zone. So we have to leave a whole day for him to consider the move, and lets us all look at the board wondering what the next move is. Like, I can tell you exactly how this most recent board played out, because it's actually the very first time we're trying this. So I went, I don't know if you can see behind me, or if you want to spotlight my screen, I can point out where we went. So I went first, because it's a bit of an advantage to go second, and he's never played before. So I went X1, right in the center on the left side. And then he went Y1. I don't know if can you see this?
Yes.
Here, let me put, so there's X1. And then he moved. I can't get my head out of the way. I don't know which way to go. Oh yeah. And then he moved to Y1. So we're both on either side. They're just a 2-player game. Hiroshi hasn't joined yet. We'll start another game for a 3-player. And now I told him I'm going to go to, I keep X5. So I'm in position to take the center now. And now it's his move. It's up to him to decide what he will do next. And then we'll continue from there. It's only 8 moves, and we'll see what happens, how it plays out.
Oh,
Has anybody else, does Rami or Dave Taylor, or has everybody not arrived today, or did I miss everybody?
I haven't seen Rami or Mike Taylor in a long time.
Really?
Hmm.
Oh, that's too bad. Do we know if he's okay?
Yes. And they show up in or no, Rami hasn't been to any Zoom meetings anywhere that I could see him. But Mike Taylor shows up on the Sunday morning Zoom meeting, Plato's Cave. Have you ever been to that one? That one's pretty good.
I don't think so. I think I tried to go to that, but I couldn't get in. I don't know whether they have to approve
Oh.
you.
Oh,
or the-
maybe he stopped allowing people in, but the
Could be.
other one called Orlando Stoics, that's a way to get in. If you join Orlando Stoics with Dan Stoic, then you can join the same meeting on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m.
Oh, okay. It
and
sounds
that-
it sounds a
well,
bit too exclusive for me. It may be that it's a bit too advanced. They just want people who are seriously.
No, you can get join through easily. He'll accept you. Dan Stoic will accept you if you join Orlando Stoics, and then you can get on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and they have a topic that's well presented with what's it with what presentation? What's that? What's that office
Presenter.
program? That that you use to put up slides,
Oh, yeah.
presentation. Office Office something. And so and they talk about different philosophers or different things or consciousness and things like that. Sometimes art. Sometimes I presented something one time or twice. Hmm. Yeah, it's pretty good. 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Well, if they have it tomorrow morning, I don't know if they will. It's July 1st. No, January 1st. Wow, the first day of 2023.
Jorge, I just had a thought about what you were inquiring about, or what you were saying about teaching people that their beliefs or their thinking is wrong. And I guess the question for me was, why? Why would you do that? First of all, you know, I think I've mentioned this before, but one lecture, one person that I went to had 3 rules for when you speak. And otherwise you don't speak, because speaking is an action. And the first rule is it true? And if you study a little bit of philosophy, you'll know we really never know if anything is absolutely true. And the second rule is, do you have a duty to speak? And if you have no duty to speak, why are you speaking? And the third rule is it kind? Is it kind to say these things to people? So if people have deeply held religious beliefs, practices that they've been practicing their whole life, why would you have a duty to correct them? Or you think correct them because you believe what you believe is true or truer than what they believe. And then last, does it pass the test of kindness? Is it kind to tell somebody, you know, your shirt is on backwards? Maybe it will embarrass them. Maybe they're just setting a new trend. So it's often best just to stay silent unless you have a duty to someone. You know, if you're a cancer specialist and someone's got stage 4 cancer, well, I guess you have a duty to tell them. It's not a pleasant duty, but it's a duty. But otherwise, you know, the family is very religious. That's lovely for them. It doesn't mean it has to be you, unless it's really because inside yourself, your own beliefs and views about yourself are not that secure, really. And the reason you're telling them is you want more converts. You want to be around people who think like you. And that will give you comfort because I'm part of a group. I'm shielded by this group. Well, that's your need, maybe not their need. So you can either comply with the group and attend their ceremonies and or just avoid it, or you can try to battle against the wind. But I don't know.
I think, Joel, when I'm hearing that, it poses the question, how do they become religious or a state? It'll be like somebody that comes out and says that they're gay. A lot of people will try to keep them in. That's how gangs work. So now, to challenge a gang to see whether or not they're true to themselves is one thing. But to label them by saying it's bad, that's where it gets conflict. Where if somebody believes in being a liberal, I'm okay with challenging the ideal so that they can reinforce it. It's like being an apprentice. Their job is to ask a lot of questions to a qualified tradesperson so they can reinforce or at least question, do I need more to learn now? And this is where people get displaced. People that are very religious aren't willing to challenge it, but yet how did they get that point? How did people become religious? How did a person become a Christian? They were sold an ideal. This is where belief system comes, where people believe in things. I can believe in going to the moon, but I could have wisdom, discernment, what purposes. I'm not trying to denounce the belief system, because the belief system is, it's not knowing. You don't know for sure if the person went up to the moon. You're trusting others say that they went to the moon, but has humanity shown that they've misled each other many times? Yes. And sometimes we don't really mislead as much as times have changed. So if it's on a, and it should be done more in a private sense, Joel, and this is, I don't know how Jose would probably do it. Publicly is one thing. If you try to score me publicly, expect me to kick back and fight. If you do it privately, that's a different conversation. So I will gladly be more receptive now. And of course, I've done this myself too, where I forget people value an extension of what their home is, which is outside of themselves. So try to have a tough conversation to a professor in his own home where he poops and eats. Well, most people forget your home is within yourself. So that's what you have to have rights and boundaries to. But people start extending their boundaries to, well, my rights is outside. I said, no, it isn't. So this is where religion is. I wouldn't know if a person's religious unless they tell me they have a belief system. Now I know they're religious. I know they have a religion, because I could only use my belief system if there's such thing as I think there's a God, let alone that Jesus Christ, because I don't know who they are. That's where belief systems are. Now, knowledge is, I know a guy that's Jesus, I've seen a guy, but I don't have wisdom. What purpose does it serve now? That's discernment. And most people don't realize that. They're so busy caught up in the stumbling block called belief systems. Now, if you want to believe in something, that's fine, but you should still question it. Don't allow others to do it for you. Do that yourself. Be that human being. Don't be an animal and with your feelings, because that's what an animal instinct is. And don't be that reptilian mind where it's too busy thinking, I gotta survive. Be the being, because none of us here, I'm pretty sure, didn't create the cars that you drive. So that's beyond your intellect. Now you can say somebody else did it, but the thing is, go ahead, Joel.
Can one believe in two or more belief systems?
Yes, you can, Jaro. You can believe in science, you can believe in religion, you can believe in state. But who created the system? Do you go to the nuts and bolts? This is where the ego defends itself. Well, I believe in stuff. That's fine. But have you ever questioned it? Well, why would I do that? I said, now you're doing philosophy. The word why. That's philosophy. How is science. So why do I join a gang? You could join many gangs. And a gang can come in any form. And everybody's trying to sell something. A priest. Why are you a priest? What do you mean? Well, let people just be religion. What do you mean? I don't need you anymore. Because you got to maintain it. Same with politics. And then you hear your people talk about things. Well, they're taking my rights away. I said, you don't understand how the sovereign being works. Your rights is your vessel. You go to Starbucks. Go ahead.
Can one believe in two different belief systems when they have certain points that contradict each other? How do you deal with that situation?
How do you deal with it, Jaro? I'm pretty sure you have many belief systems. How do you deal with it? Do you justify one and you avoid the other? A lot of people just avoid things. That's why I say you should question things, not avoid things. And when I say question things, I'm not talking about questioning the material. I'm talking about question your feelings, question your thinking, question your reasons. Don't question others. I'm just talking. Go ahead, Jaro.
I could think of belief systems not as something that is excludes others, but as like different languages. Like you can learn two different languages, and so you can sort of like changing channels in your mind. You can, okay, now I'm going to go into this belief system, and so I switch channels in my mind and I work off of that one.
It is a belief system because you don't know where language comes from, Jaro.
I say, like, I could believe in a Hindu belief system, and then I could switch over to a Buddhist belief system where there's some contradictions when you compare them, but then you could switch back and forth between them. And when you're in one, you work off of that, and when you go to the other one, you work off of that, and
Carl?
but you don't mix them.
Anybody that talks about Buddha or Jesus is a belief, because you've nobody here, unless they're going to talk about reincarnation, ever met the characters. Now, what you can have wisdom and discernment is the teachings. But most people spend too much time talking about words like Socrates, Jesus, Muhammad, Musa. Then you're only enforcing a belief system. But what's the teaching? Because that's where wisdom comes. You can discern, does that teaching serve a purpose for me in any given moment? Most people believe that they're Christians their whole life. They're full of, I don't want to say the bad word, but to me, that's an ignorant human being. Now, they might get all upset. I said, because you've never challenged the self, yourself, not me. I'm unimportant in that equation, because you don't know my story. I don't know anybody else's story here. And when I say their story, I don't know what you do when you're asleep. I don't know how you eat. That's your responsibility. It will reveal yourself when you have cancer or diabetes that you did something that aired your own body.
People who die and
where do they go? Where do they go, Jorge?
Come back from death, like have a near-death experience.
Few and far between, but yes, there's people that do that.
They report they saw, like if they're Christians, they say they saw Jesus, and if they're Buddhist, they saw the Buddha, and if there's Hindu, they saw Krishna.
But did you, Jaro, each individual, it's an individual basis. Did somebody else? For them, it's still a belief system. For them,
when you're guiding someone who is dying, and you decide you're atheist, and you decide that that's the truth and everything else is wrong, so you don't want to convince the person that is dying that is a Christian, and convince them like minutes before going through the death process, to convince them and say, no, you know what, Jesus is and all that, it's all wrong, there's nothing like that.
Maybe.
So no, you let them die with their belief system, and then they will, with their mind, they will identify whatever they see there with whatever they believe.
Jaro, there's people out there. I know they say the story. If you're on your deathbed and you had more time to live, would you be thinking about work? There's some people that actually would say their action would show, well, what did you do most of your life? I worked. I said, so then why would you say otherwise? So now, whether or not a person believes in a guy named Jesus, or a person, even people that are atheists, there are a bunch of other funny people. They just converted to another thing, which is fine. But if you want to learn about what it is, what people do as under the label or the gang called atheism, that's fine. But when a person says one's right and one's wrong, I've said it to you many times. I said, change the word to wrong to left. Those are directions, right or left. Those are direction. Use your hemispheres. You have a reason. You have a reason. In
the Hindu Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, there's some verses that Krishna is telling Arjuna what he is and how to think of him. And he's saying that whatever you believe in, I'm there. So whatever, no matter what religion you have, whatever one believes in as the supreme being, or it could be the universe, could be nothing, then you're praying to that which is Krishna.
Maybe.
So maybe the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita was to integrate all religions into one, or maybe it's a science of religion or something.
Well, Jaro, if you were born into a family of slavery, then you can actually pose the ideal, does prayer really work for you, let alone the gods? Because then you can play that wonderful world. Do the gods favor us, or are they against us? It's always easy when you're talking from a very attachment point of view of comforts and luxuries, or your intent is always positive. Well, then you're slanting yourself. People that are actually very angry and have an ill intent for other people and have the resources will blow anybody else's philosophy. Well, if I just use a positive intent, I said, that's a wishy-washy person. You're not wise enough to realize the discernment. Discern each moment as they come. Discern them. Now, you just quoted a whole bunch of things that, how did that serve you?
Jorge,
Because that's what...
How do you discern what you have heard? Or did you find anything interesting, Jorge?
Always interesting, entertainment, amusement.
Entertaining?
Always amusement, curiosity.
Well,
That's what I would.
go ahead, Dominic. Go ahead.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm okay.
It's interesting for me. Interesting. Everything is interesting. This is the way that I learn by listening to every opinion that Dominic, Joel, Lucia, or you, Jairo, have. So I'm learning from that.
Mhm,
I'm filling my mind
mhm,
because I was raised, I was programmed to believe in Catholicism.
mhm.
I was born and raised believing that. Uh, and I never went to church. I didn't have to go to church because my mom, my dad, my family, they, uh, in one way or another, they programmed me to follow traditions. And that's it. As far as I remember, I never read the Bible. I started reading the Bible because I wanted to know what was happening there, who wrote it, what was the purpose to write the Bible, that holy holy words that they call it. But once I start reading and try, now I'm gonna apply what you're talking about, trying to discern what what was the message and what was the purpose, why the purpose, like Joel said, or did they who tell them to uh, start telling to people, hey, you have to live this way, or right or left, or like Dominic said, well, it start my way of thinking start changing because everything that I was reading, I wasn't looking that the governments or the countries were doing the contrary. It was imposed. They were not saying that what those books said that you have to do. And there's were stories that I didn't believe in them. So it was very controversial. So, but this discerning of this book, it wasn't in 1 week or 1 day. It took me years and to get more information and start discerning from other books, and yeah, that's what I did. And it's really important to see, uh to listening to Joel and Dominic, Lucia and you, Jairo. It's good for me. So uh I'm trying to see and what other people think about the same.
This is why.
And at the end is the same, and it doesn't matter where you live. If we go, if I was, if I were born in China, it's the same thing. I just absorb the culture, the archetypes, and the belief system, even if you don't want to call it like that, or religion, or whatever they
Mhm.
in China. If you ask one person from China, and they're gonna tell you, "Hey, I'm happy here. I believe in, if you want to call it communism, but for me, it's my way of life, and I'm happy."
Well,
I
that's that pursuit of happiness. That's why you're in America, because people don't realize you have moments of happiness. Most people just ignore all the other emotions, energy that's been traveled. Even in the Christians' teaching, when they talk about be like children again. Why? Because children are teachable. Human beings that have a belief system aren't teachable. That's the sad part. When I hear people talk
that's a
about,
problem. Yeah, that's a problem, Dominic.
it's not a problem, as that's more as a stumbling block. Most people don't realize they defend and attack. Those are their likes and dislikes. When I hear people say they agree or disagree, I said, did you see it through my senses? No. So who taught you that? I'm asking an honest question. Did your parents teach you that? Well, they failed you. What do you mean? You don't see what I see through my senses. So the only thing we could do is share with each other, consider each other, respect. That's what respect means. But when we form things like religion and state, that tells me where we're at. People want to be in gangs, but more times than not, you're being obligated to a gang that no longer that the leader's even alive.
Joel, what were you about to say?
I was about to say, Jorge, that you have to be very careful, because if you listen to Dominic and I too much, you'll become Canadian. And then you'll have to put a little Canadian flag after your name, and it's a whole belief system.
It is.
So you have to be careful. But in any event, guys, I'm going to wish you all a very happy new year. And I'll see everybody next year.
I
And
will.
if you want to play Vinci with us, Jorge, where are you? You're in Texas, right?
Houston.
Houston, yeah. So we got nobody playing in Texas at the moment. If you want to join in the game, it'd be a pleasure to have you. Just send your email through Hyro.
Okay,
And
I will.
Hyro, give my regards to your mom. Bye, everyone. Nice to
I
meet
will.
you.
Bye-bye, Joel.
Bye,
Take
Dominic.
care.
Happy New
Bye.
Year.
Same to you,
Joel.
Joel.
Happy New Year, Joel, but you can call him Joel.
So are we gonna go back, guys, to the initial, you were talking, Gyro, because I keep tracking that stuff about prayer into in this case, to some sort of God.
What is your opinion to, I want to know the Lucia's opinion about prayer or praying. What do you think, Lucia?
What does Lucia think?
What I think about prayer?
Mhm.
Already told them.
But I didn't hear. Could you please?
Well, keep in mind, George, this is where people get lazy. This is recorded. No, this is recorded, because if we're all waiting for Jesus to come back and over and go, can you repeat it? No, it's been recorded, whether it's in the audio or it's written down. You know what I mean? This is how, for me, this is how it gets all bunched up. You know, if we're having an intellectual conversation, people better make sure that their feelings are intact, because to
Lucia,
regurgitate it over and over again.
Lucia could remind us what she said about prayer, and then Jorge will be on track.
But she just told you. She's already said that, Joe. Are
But,
you listen? Are you listening inwards?
Jorge
George?
wasn't here.
I know you wasn't here, but it's recorded. It's
Jorge
recorded,
wasn't
and
here, so maybe Jorge would like to know.
I want to know what he had for breakfast too, and I also want to know what he had for what he's going to have for supper. But isn't that going to bunch? But anyway,
So,
go ahead. You did that. You didn't ask.
I don't
let-
want to generate
Lucia.
that conflict between you guys. First of all, I may share with Jorge or everyone here that I was raised like a Christian, specifically like a Catholic. So it was like that because that was the religion of my parents. I didn't uh, decide that, no. So it was because, well, it was their pattern, their scheme about life, and it's what I learned when I was very very small. But then I learned about other things. I learned about many different things. Spiritism, uh,
Oh,
philosophy, about many other things. So and now I have a more comprehensive idea or wisdom about what is a belief. Um, my personal opinion is that we can believe in anything we want because beliefs or religions and beliefs and religions are fundament. They are based on faith. So it's something that you really, if you want to spend time discussing beliefs, is very hard because this is something that you can talk so much, but in general, it's something that only depends on what is you consider that is good for you. So it's not like scientific knowledge. It's about faith. You believe or don't believe on that. So I don't care what people believe. As I mentioned before, I consider that the important part is the intention. So we live in a world where people believe in many things, in extraterrestrial people, in the god of spaghetti, in Donald Trump, in Allah, in whatever. No, mainly people is monotheism. So we're in a world that is changing their conceptions about monotheism. Is becoming more monotheism. And I don't think this is bad. I think it's very good, as well as people really have a good intention to practice and pursue the peace of everyone. No, it is because otherwise we will kill each other. No, so I um, I think if one wants to pray to green entities or to the spaghetti gods, it's fine if that person believes in that. But the important is that you don't commit a crime or you don't make something bad with your bad intention to hurt others. No, so that's what I think.
Thank you,
Uh,
Lucia. Thank you.
yeah.
Dominic, do you remember the time or the age when you were start questioning these ideas from your parents?
Are you talking about when you're religious, you mean? Like a religion?
About everything that they believe. When you start asking this question, why do I have to follow your ideas?
Well, when it comes, it was more my mom on her side when it comes to like going to church and all that. And then she would say something, if you're gonna be like that, you don't have to go to church. I said, well, then you just served a purpose for me. Or I'd be in church thinking, asking questions like, because my mom wanted to sit at the front. I said, Mom, when an ant goes up the pew or whatever, and it rolls down, how does it know to keep going in that direction? Her only concern was keep quiet. I said, oh, okay, so that's how we're playing it. So I already knew from within myself, I'm there to question things. When I didn't question things, I always felt out of place. Like I even heard Lucia talk about it. We didn't have belief system. No, we wouldn't have war. We have exactly what we have now. Most people just ignore each other. We have indifference because war is something that's its own belief system. I'm fighting for my country. You know, that's the whole thing about religion and science and state, where it takes ignorance to keep belief systems alive. Now, when a person, and I heard you say that, Lucia, once you choose to be more spiritual, hence the word good, opposed to the word evil, which means material, good and evil. So once you realize you live in a material world, but you don't see what you describe things. So that's me inquiring it. Now you're asking me, back to you, Jorge, when you're talking about when I did it, it just became a moment of awareness. I think I've always known. I think I used to always, when I was 15 years old, ask my friends and said, am I the only one that's listening to you? What do you mean? Are you listening to yourself? You know, I knew that. Now, I also had a couple of people, they had to remove what we call curses off of me because I've lived many lifespans. And I know, I realize people, they want it their way, which is fine. But are we going to consider each other? Are we going to respect each other? What do you mean? Because you're hiding behind a religion. I don't give a damn about religion or state. Now, a person might say, but Dominic, but I do. I said, you just took on one of the personas. Are you a parent? Are you an electrician? Are you a plumber? Those are your personas. That's not who you are. So it sounds like Lucia's rounded herself. She learned a little bit about philosophy, psychology. But it's challenging when other people, it'd be different if they just sit there and they're like a statue. They don't do nothing. I'm indifferent. Well, then you're a statue. No, but you are doing something. You're going to a job. You should at least question it. Because why? There's other young kids that need to understand why you do it. Well, to just do what I do, and that's it. I said, so then you're just an idiot then. See, I'd rather be the fool not the idiot. The fool's going to seek. The idiot's going to say, well, you know, I know things. You know, fuck all. What do you mean? Well, how does the moon and sun work? Well, I wouldn't know that. I said, but let's say you did know that. How would you have discernment? How would you know, in this case, Jorge, when you're saying, how do I explain to somebody else that Catholicism, no different driving a car, or in this case, we're using technology like a cell phone and all this stuff harms us? How would we educate each other on that? How would we tell people when we introduce radio frequency that actually harms all our receivers in our bodies? but it doesn't do it to everybody. Only certain people get affected more than others. How would we explain that to each other? You can only share out loud. Just don't get caught up in agreeing or disagreeing, or my feelings get hurt. Because if your feelings get hurt, that tells a lot about you. You have more to grow. Because there's people out there in the world that kill each other. That's their choice. There's people out there that help each other. That's their choice. But it's when somebody says, well, that's right. I said, no, that's just a direction. That's you still getting caught up with your programs, thinking that, well, religion does this, but it doesn't do that. I said, be the observer of those things. Now, sorry, Jaro, for a second, but I still realize, go ahead. I was going to say, I still realize my own hypocrisy. When I read the Bible, I just saw the hypocrisy in humanity, including me, not the Bible itself, because that was a few people that were sharing stories. When people tell me, well, Don, we're destroying the world, I said, you're still a child. What do you mean? The world is okay with or without humans. It's the human problem. And that starts at each individual person. Hence the word know thyself. Don't worry about knowing others. Now, if you choose to live in another country, Jorge, you want to go to America, your question is more, why did I leave Mexico? Why did I leave Canada? Because those are just continents. And you can identify yourself by saying, well, I'm a Christian. No, I'm a Canadian. I'm an American. Those are just stories that you give yourself. But you're allowed to question those things. And it's better that you question yourself before somebody else has to do it for you. Because that's not their responsibility. Listen to the word responsibility, the ability to respond. Most people just react. Oh, my feelings got hurt. Okay, good for you. Well done. Is that the same feeling yesterday when I told you you had a nice dress or a nice pair of shoes? Did you accept that? Well, then accept the other part. If you're truly here to grow. If not, get in there with like the rest of us. I'm the only one that just turns around and said, I know I'm full of shit. But are most people willing to say that about themselves? I doubt it. But they're willing to say, oh, I'm a Christian. Fuck off. And I say that just to see if they're emotionally strong to themselves. If not, then how would they respond if Jesus or Muhammad said, you guys are idiots. I never wrote any of that shit. Listen to what I just said. I don't write things. Verbal speech is by far more superior than written speech. Now, unless you want to talk about symbology and all that other stuff, and this is how we divide ourselves. Well, I'm Italian, I'm black. I said, I don't see any black people. I don't see any Italians. I see humans. I forgot your condition. You've been programmed from the day you were born. What do you mean? And you weren't born in that vessel. You came in after, unless you value in reincarnation. Because if you do, the body will die. But it's a beautiful body, and it's technology that's more intellectual than any computer will ever make, let alone any car. And even that, I'm not making any of that stuff. So I get a privilege of using this vessel. Now, some people will get upset at what I say. I said, you just tell me you're an idiot. You're a child, getting all upset. Why? If I told you really nice, kind things. Oh, anyway, I went on. Sorry, Jaro, go ahead.
He got emotional.
Yes. I have encountered an interesting theory that, well, it's kind of like Prometheus idea. I think that has to do with the history of humanity, that basically we came from an alien people, and they kind of made sure the earth was going around the sun just at the right orbit and everything, so that the conditions would be good for life. And so they planted the trees and placed the animals. So that's kind of like the creator God. But they were actually aliens, like the book Chariot of the Gods and things like that, von Daniken and all that. And so this being by the name of Jehovah or Yahweh, or however it's pronounced, that appears in the Bible, that walks in the Garden of Eden, like he's actually walking and looking for where's Adam, where's Eve, and all that. He's like that alien. And then people eventually decided to put him on a pedestal and make him the creator god, but he was actually a person. Maybe he was assigned to that part of the earth to make sure things were going right, and so he said, okay, go ahead. It's okay if they believe that I'm God. I'll go with it. I'll go with that. That's cool, and maybe they'll be kind to each other. But it didn't work out, because then there's all these religious wars over that God, or maybe it's maybe it's political, like say wars between the Muslims and the Christians in the Crusades. Maybe it was not because of the religion, but they used the religion, but it was more maybe greed or political, or to take over
Power.
Israel or Jerusalem and things like that. But
It could
that's
be
an
power.
interesting idea, that this being, Jehovah, is actually an alien being that kind of kept quiet. Okay, if they want to believe that I'm the God of everything, that's
Mhm.
fine with me.
It's a lot of it.
Then that story is for the Christians because they believe, or the Jews because they believe in Yahweh or whatever they call it, not for the people that live in China or Japan, India, or Canada.
Yes, in China they don't have any concept of a creator God. They believe in a lot of spirits and stuff like that. Like,
Mhm.
oh, that mountain, oh, that mountain has a spirit, and so we gotta do something about it, so that things go well with our crops and things like that.
Mhm.
There's many stories, guys, and one of the stories is we are not the vessel. This vessel was created like birds were created to fly and all that kind of stuff. But our essence, we're putting into those things. This is where we get the concept of spirit. So, for example, it's like if you commit a crime, then you go into jail. They give you a uniform. Our uniform is the vessel. So most people think rarely does somebody can truly say, "I remember being in the womb." Most of us jump in after. Now, there is blood and water that plays a major role. So these entities would say they captured another entities and they said, listen, you're allowed we're going to, like they do with gold, you're going to put it through the steels. So some of us get to keep coming back over and over again to see down the road. Now you're ready. You've been a student many lifetimes. Now you can assist. You can be an apprentice in how to manage the trees or the water or all this stuff, let alone there's other planes. The whole ideal of giving us the ideal that we live in a globe, just because you see two spheres up in the sky where nothing up there is down here. That's the story that's giving us to keep us here. It's like if we're all born in a forest and our parents, because they've done movies like this too, where our parents who are aware said we chose to leave the major cities and we put all our kids here and we conditioned to say you can't go past the forest because there's monsters. This is how you keep people in check. This is what religion and state does. Now, whether or not there's other beings, because we are human beings, other beings that are here to rule, whether they're here to rule humans or whether we're to trees and all that, we have to show respect. When you're in the mafia's community, you have to show respect. If not, publicly, they're going to have to say, listen, you're forcing my hands now. That's like when we have kings and queens, which is our hemispheres. Then you have your gesture, which is your heart. If they're not aligned, your heart's going to remind you privately, you're acting like an idiot. Now, I choose to act like an idiot, and I'm using the word act, but I'm not an idiot, let alone am I good. I'm acting good. The person that says they're good, I said, you're full of shit. But that's me talking so that they can say, listen, if you truly believe in what you just said, then you shouldn't worry about how I said it. This is where people, they want pleasantries. They want to be sold pleasantry, which is okay. If I came to a world that everybody was kind, then I would have to do the opposite. If I went to a world that everybody was cruel, then I would have to do the opposite. Why? Because not everybody's designed to be the fastest runner in the world. Not everybody's going to be the person that says, I do remember the last life I lived. Why are we born? Why are any of you guys born to have many high rises? Are many of you guys able to run a mile under 4 minutes? No. So then you don't have those gifts. This is where we forget. Do you have the life of longevity? let alone is it healthy? We don't know. That's why it's an individual journey. So joining religion or anything else tells me you're distracting yourself, which is fine. You want to experience being a religious person, that's fine. But did you have a choice? Were you able to question your parents and say, why are we Catholic? Why are we Muslims and all that? Well, son, don't. I said, I'm learning philosophy. I didn't come here for you, mom and dad. You're insignificant to me. Did you teach me how to breathe? No, so then fuck off. That's to remind them they're not above anybody else. Now, I could act like an idiot, but there's a lot of people out there acting like idiot. Hey, look at me, I'm Bill Gates. Who cares? I'm asking the question. I'm not telling not to care. Who cares? By giving somebody an attention, I don't care if it's positive or negative, that's his energy. You're showing that you care. But most people are indifferent. Well, that has nothing to do with me. Really, you live in a city, you idiot. Everything should have to do with you. And if you're not prepared to challenge yourself, then you're already dead.
So it's that time of the day.
Mhm.
I have to leave
Go ahead.
you all because I'm going off to another meeting, maybe, or something like that. So I enjoyed this prayer conversation.
Can I
Well,
can I say something very, very quick,
yes.
Jairo? I thank you very much to all of you for this conversation. And I would like to just wrap up what I heard today, leaving something that I really would like to discuss, and is the transcendence of the pride. So, what is that for you? It is an action that is transformative, that is an action of creativity, is an action of um, obsession, because depending on how do you pray, how do you use your belief system and your religion to practice this, to put this on practice. It has one result or another. How do you feel when you pray? Do you feel that you are experiencing an act of freedom, or you feel that this is something that keeps you restricted in some way? So that's the part that I would like to discuss, because in really this kind of analysis about believing in God, or believing in 3,000 gods, of this God is good or is bad, this is a level of discussion that you know it will bring you to nowhere. No, but what is the part that you feel when you cry? It is something that changes your mind, that mobilize you as a human being, a to transform something or not. That's the part I would like to talk about. Well, thank you very much, and have a wonderful weekend, and happy New Year to all of you.
Okay, we will discuss that next Saturday, where we will consider how can prayer transform our life, or something like that.
Sounds good to me. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Dominic. So have a wonderful New Year's Day.
Okay, Jairo. Bye-bye.
Bye.